Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. A few days ago I was watching the news, saw an interview with a young Muslim woman, and she made a comment that I thought was extremely wise. She said, the Prophet Muhammad lived in a time that was very different than the times that we live in now. And that Muslims today cannot look to him for moral guidance in a lot of areas. Now, the same can be said of the Bible, especially the Old Testament, but even parts of the New. For example, it's no longer considered morally acceptable to commit genocide, to own slaves, to beat your wife, or to kill your children if they are disobedient. It is also not morally acceptable in our modern times to kill people for blasphemy, or because they decide that they want to convert to another religion or become atheists. Unfortunately, many Muslims, I don't think they agree with her. And these are mainstream Muslims who would certainly not be considered extremists, do believe that these things are permissible. In many Muslim countries, they have anti-blasphemy laws, and blasphemy can be punished by death. You can be executed if you decide to stop being a Muslim, whether to convert to another religion or to become an atheist or to just become non-religious. And these laws are not considered to be controversial. They are accepted and supported by what appears to be the majority of people in those countries. And that is a problem. These laws have no place in the modern world. They are artifacts from centuries ago, and they need to be consigned to the dustbin of history. See, even though many Muslims are not violent, are not terrorists, having these things as a social norm affects the way people think. And it is easier to radicalize young Muslims because the journey from being a mainstream Muslim to becoming a terrorist is not that far to go. It's not that big a step. When Bill Maher made points similar to what I'm saying right now, he received a lot of criticism, but he was onto something. There is not a lot of difference between the thinking of mainstream Muslims and Islamic radicals. So when someone burns a Koran, or publishes a book, or makes a movie, or draws a cartoon that is offensive to Islam, there are often large and violent demonstrations. And when an imam issues a fatwa calling for the death of someone who has done or said something that is considered offensive to Islam, it is not controversial in the Muslim world. In today's world, these imams should be shunned. They should be rejected, and their mosques closed, maybe turned into a hamburger joint. It is much more offensive, I think, and morally unacceptable to issue a fatwa like that. than it is to burn a Koran. If you are offended by that kind of thing, then you're just going to have to learn to live with it. But violence over words or cartoons or anything else is simply wrong. We live in a time when people with religious sensibilities are often going to be offended. But what they don't seem to get is how offensive they are. Many of the statements that deeply religious people make are extremely offensive to people who are not religious or don't hold the same faith that they do. I am offended every day by the things deeply religious people do and say, and I don't become violent. If I blew up a mosque or a church or a synagogue every time some religious freak offended me, people would have nowhere left to pray but outside. Thanks for listening.